Perhaps the biggest change in Pro Tools 8 is the addition of a real MIDI editor. And you see how easy it is to split my window so I can see both my edit window and my MIDI editor. I have automation lanes down at the bottom. I can change the way my MIDI tracks are colored, either by track or separate colors for each instrument, or even by velocity. I can, of course, edit these notes in many, many ways, and I'll get to that in a moment. And I can even look at notation. Yes, there is now notation in Pro Tools, and you can view it, you can edit it, you can even print it out. I'll show you that in a second. Just select a note, drag it up and down. And of course, there are many other things I can do. Now, the great thing is that we can bring up a separate MIDI window, and I can do that through a shortcut, Control equals, or from my window menu. And I can have as many of these open as I want, each one with its own grid settings, each one showing its own instruments, each one with its own color settings, and so forth. I can very easily tab around from note to note. I can show my automation lanes. You see here's MIDI velocity for each of my instruments. If I scroll down, I have MIDI mute, MIDI pan. There they all are. And I can resize these so I can see however many of them I want. And I can edit them all with the pencil tool, as you'd expect. Now, if I select a note, I can tab around the different notes. It's a little easier to see if I have just one instrument here. Watch what happens when I hit the tab key. Now, when I'm working in the MIDI editor, I have a really great toolbar. It has different tools, as you'd expect, but it also has a Smart tool. If I click my Smart tool, just like with audio, where one tool can do multiple things, here in the MIDI editor, one tool can do multiple things. It can trim if you're on the beginning or end of a note. If I'm in the middle of a note, I can drag that note up and down. If I hold down the Command key and drag, I change the velocity. And you can see that. Let me get back to velocity here and watch what happens. I might have scrolled off your screen there, but this note down here is going up and down. I can snap the note to the previous or next note, and there are a variety of other things that I can do with the Smart tool. If I want to draw in a new note, I can get to the pencil tool by holding down Control and just clicking anywhere. And I can drag the note out, or if I have my grid set the way I want it, here it's set to, let's set it to 1 bar. When I click with my tool, Control click here, I will set everything to 1 bar. And if I change my grid to something else, now when I click, it will be something else. There are also some other nice things you can do with MIDI notes. You can hold down the right mouse button or use a control key to separate a note, consolidate 2 notes together, and you can even mute notes, which makes it great when you're listening to something. If you just want to mute certain notes to see how it sounds, you can now mute individual MIDI notes, or of course select multiple ones and mute them all. Now, we also have that wonderful score editor, and I can look at this also in its individual window, and I can scroll in what's called panorama view, where I'm seeing the whole score as one long manuscript with as many tracks as I want showing. But it's even better because I can look at this in printed view. This is the view of the score as it will print. I can add titles, I can change spacing. Again, I can choose what parts to display and even transpose them. And finally, I can export this score to Sibelius. Sibelius, as you probably know, is owned by Digidesign. And now from the File menu, you can export your score as it looks here, right to Sibelius, and it will show up looking exactly the same way. Just go under the File menu, choose Export, Sibelius, choose the settings, and it will open up Sibelius with the score looking exactly like it is here, and then you can add your dynamics, your lyrics, and anything else you want to do in Sibelius. There's no exporting to MIDI and importing MIDI and losing all your settings. It's perfectly seamless.